Well, good afternoon, everyone. Hello, and thank you for coming out to Unexpected Connections. I'm Mike Porter, and I'm part of a Grace Harris Leadership Institute class that put this together, this connection that we found between theater and forensic science. And I'd like other members of our team, including this one right here, to raise their hand so you know who's been involved in the project. Just raise your hand here. There are 7 of us all together. Hello, hello. We have a great program for you today, and I wanted to introduce our 2 presenters and speakers. One is right behind me. It's Marilyn Miller.
Oh, no, I was hiding.
Oh, she's hiding. Okay, she's hiding from forensic science, and Maura Cravey, who's applying the makeup, is from the theater department. So without further delay, we'll let them take off and talk about the connections that they found between their 2 disciplines.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for showing up. When I started to put together this presentation with Maura, we kind of discussed the possibility of us needing to do a disclaimer at the beginning of it, mostly because it's kind of like little after lunch, maybe before lunch. Yeah, so, okay, you're in the back row. But then we decided it's forensic science. Okay, if you're going to be squeamish about things, and that's the best way to put it, you're not going to come to a talk that's about forensic science anyway. Right, everybody? I promise I will not throw up in the pretty new facility. There's a big garbage can there, and there are a couple in the back. So that's our bit of a disclaimer. And I wanted to thank the Grace Harris Hall group for putting us together. Here at VCU, we are a huge, huge campus. I'm kind of down at that end of the world, and then the arts folks are all at this end of the world, and we don't even get started about the ones that are way, way down there. So putting us together is this provides us with a nice opportunity to get to know other disciplines, and frankly, that's what college life is supposed to be about anyway, isn't it? Okay, my students, and some of them are lurking here, they know forensic science and science. They may not necessarily be well-rounded to know the arts and things like that. So thank you guys for doing that. Kudos to you, appreciate it. All right, so when we got together, we thought about how we're gonna do this. One of the things that I am often asked about in this field of forensic science, and my specialty, my parents are so proud, my specialty is bloodstain pattern analysis and crime scene reconstruction, which means I go to crime scenes, and using the physical evidence, I am able to figure out what activities cause the evidence that we see at the scene. And I've been doing this for quite some time, and I also am lucky enough to still get to testify about it frequently as an expert witness. I told you my parents were proud. All right. So one of the things that, because of my exposure, I'm constantly asked about is, well, did you see that movie the other night that was on TV? Now, is that really what happens? And so that's how we decided to come up with this little comparison of what you see in the real Hollywood's world and what you see in the real world, the criminal justice world, the real death investigations that happen. And because, you know, I think a week from today is some notorious holiday, we wanted to also throw in a little bit of, here's how you can do it if you really, 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 really want to know. All right. So kind of what we're going to do is we've divided it up into these 3 main areas. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about bloodstain pattern analysis. We're going to talk about certain types of bloodstains. And then I'm going to show you some movie clips, which is really hard to do, get clips out of big, long movies or anything, because you know who my computer experts are? My students, the millennials are the expert. And then bits and pieces is where Maura is going to have a chance to chat with you about some of the great little, literally bits and pieces of wounds that she has done. And then it's our do-it-yourself segment where we're going to show you how to create some of these things if you want to. All right, so first let's talk about bloodstain patterns. Bloodstain patterns are patterns that are created from bloodshed. Duh, how's that sound? But because we are a human being and we have this nice contained vessel holding blood, how we rupture that vessel is going to produce different stains. And if you're really interested in bloodstain pattern analysis, unfortunately, I can't do it in 50 minutes. It's a 40-hour certification course if you really want to do it, and then there's another 40-hour certification test. So I had to pick out some patterns that are the most dynamic. Let's put it that way, so that you can get an idea of what we're talking about. So the first group that we're going to talk about, this is America, so we're going to talk about guns, okay? So gunshot wounds are very, very prevalent in the movies. They are unfortunately very prevalent in a lot of criminal investigations, and so I picked that one. We're then going to take a few minutes and look at impact spatter. And impact spatter is a pattern of blood that is created. I should probably quiz you guys because you have a midterm coming up. It is created when you add force to blood. And normally in criminal investigations that falls into two categories, the ones that are the result of beatings and those that are the result of sharp force trauma or stabbings. And then lastly, my personal favorite are the arterial spurts or the arterial gushes, because literally what we're going to do is we're going to sever some arteries. And the movies are kind of get that. Trust me, they like arterial gushes too, because you'll see they can be very dynamic, and they're even very dynamic in real cases as well. So let's take a look at some gunshot wounds. I have to find my little pointer. Now, I will warn you. No, it's not like you think. When blood is contacted by a high force, like a bullet, a projectile, entering this closed vessel, it is adding a lot of force to that blood. It is so much force that it causes the blood to break up into very, very small sized orbs or spheres of blood. In some cases, if we're talking about a major caliber firearm, it's going to almost look as if you had taken an atomizer and gone with the blood. So for that reason, when the blood is flying out of the human body and it hits the surface, sometimes it is often overlooked because it is so small. And it can also be overflowed by the other parts of bleeding that happen. Because if somebody goes down on the floor after they've been shot, usually what's going to happen is they're going to bleed out. And that will oftentimes make the high force impact spatter of gunshot wounds not visible. So the key with these, here's what you need to do, is you need to look for a mist-like pattern. Something as if it's a little perfume burst from that atomizer that goes, all right? So it's always helpful it's more than one, so we'll see what happens here. Come back. Where'd my little dealy bop go? Well, I lost my pointer. I have to find it. Where did you go, cursor? Because if I don't hit it, this is like stupid animal tricks on David Letterman. They never, there it is. All right, come back here. Oh darn, bullets always beat out Kung Fu. So did you see the little mist of blood every time her chest was impacted? You know, a stupid person come to a Kung Fu fight with a gun. So, but then you also notice that as she's laying there, we're beginning to see some flow of blood. Now, how many wounds did she have? At least 3. Those are in an area that has a high probability of putting out a lot of blood. So almost instantaneously, as soon as she hits the ground, you're going to see a flow of blood out of here that would oftentimes obliterate that fine mist. All right, so that's the real, but not bad. They got the misting idea. All right, they got that part. Let's take a look at another one. Here we go again. Stupid pet tricks. There, gosh. Okay. Now, this one is uber cool because you didn't see the mist. Or if you didn't know to look for it, you would have completely missed it. But then guess what happened? The action, did you notice how they had to switch to another camera or another view? Because then they started showing the flow from not only the wound where she was shot, but also how it was doing a little flow pattern down, and then there was some pooling of blood. So once again, they kind of get that mist idea, but this gun this guy is using, it looked like it was either a 9mm or a 45 caliber, even a 40 cal. That's a pretty monster round. That's going to produce a lot of blood. And I don't know if any of you all have seen a professional fight. Where is what part of your body is going to bleed a lot with just small wounds? Your head, you know, the infamous boxer's cut, it bleeds like crazy. So kind of right, but kind of not so right. Good idea on the flow. All right, let's see if I can do it this way. Now, these are what real ones look like. And this is a real case. This is, unfortunately, a young man who had been shot in the head. But what the crime scene investigator or the bloodstain pattern analyst is going to see is they're going to come on the scene and they're going to see the little stains on the shirt. You see the little pinpoint stains. Now they look like they've started to be absorbed into the fabric, and indeed they have. So an inexperienced bloodstain pattern analyst would miss those. We're seeing, unfortunately, is a freckled individual that somehow is masking some of these as well. But you can see the stains right here, and certainly what we were talking about. That's what a real firearm to the head wound would look like. And notice that this is all correct, the bleed out from the head wounds. Also, gunshot wounds have a tendency to continue to bleed, and if the individual who has been shot does not immediately succumb to their injuries, that blood goes with them. And as a bloodstain pattern analyst, I am also looking at the pattern of blood here saying, well, this is a shooting that happened a long time previous to the photographs, because you're getting some separation of the bleed out. The good news is like this photo doesn't show his head, which was almost completely gone. And this was a man who was shot with an AR-15, which is a long rifle. Lots of force to it. But you can see that was there a lot of movement before or after he was shot? Was he moving a lot after he was shot? Yeah. Of course he was. If this is somebody who immediately goes down because of a head wound, you're not going to have all of that other blood that's present in this crime scene. I wish we had so much time I could tell you the whole story of this one. It's very interesting. Darn. And here's another classic example of high force impact spatter, which is the result of a firearm. See the mist-like appearance right here? This individual received 4 shots to the chest, right around her heart. And every time that area is shot, you're going to get this blowback effect from the blood. Now, if the bullets had traveled through her body, then certainly there would be lots of blood on the other side of her body. But all of these rounds stayed in her chest, producing this great blowback stuff underneath here. Now, I will tell you this. that in this case, I'm not going to tell you the whole story, but in this case, there was some question as to whether or not this individual was actually shot here or she had been shot somewhere else and put here. And as soon as I saw this photograph, I told the attorney that I was working for at the time that that is clearly where she was shot. This was not something that was done somewhere else and the scene staged. So excellent examples of high force impact spatter. Now, invariably, someone always says, well, what about those bigger ones up there, those bigger stains? That's not high force, that's not mist. Well, unfortunately, when you're using a thing like a firearm that's going to disrupt the body, you will also, in many cases, get flesh and skin and hair, other things that will also produce stains. It's the mist part that's important. Okay, gunshot wounds, huh? Everybody good on those? All right. What's wrong with this one? Here we go again. There we go. Now this one's pretty quick. And this is a classic movie. All right, so that leaves about half of the audience. Classic. It was before you were born, all right? Oh, bollocks. Okay. Come on, there we go. Where did it go? There it is. Okay. Come on, look at that cinematography there. That gun should be a giveaway. That big revolver pointed through the window. There it is. Dirty Harry. Clint Eastwood, God love him. But did you notice something about those shootings? Because remember, that was his big thing, that big honking firearm he used. Did you see any blood? Did you see any blood at all, whether it impacted them or even after he hits another surface? Because that blood, when it gets outside the body, it's going to get transferred to all sorts of surfaces. So we love Dirty Harry, but Dirty Harry was wrong in so many ways. All right, let's see. All right, so second type we're going to look at. We're going to look at some beatings and we're going to look at some stabbings. Okay, get on the edge of your seats here. Real beatings. What is it with this thing? This is a little longer.
Himself to live long days. Babe Ruth, Tackle, and so on. Steve no field. What is it? Follow me? No what? Sunny day, he's standing full of fans. What does he have to say? I'm going out there for myself. What? I get nowhere unless he wins.
Robert De Niro is one hell of an actor, but he also produced some really good bloodstain patterns in this scene. Truly accurate ones with one problem. Here's my bat. And I've got a volunteer sitting in the front row right here.
Perfect.
Oh, yes. You know what? I knew you should have been in the back row. Would you hold this for me, please? So, if I'm going to hit somebody in the head with enough force that's going to cause blood to travel out in all directions, I am indeed going to get much to travel in that direction. But it doesn't not come this way. And so, as good as that was, if Robert De Niro were taking that baseball bat, as he was doing, you're bloody, you're bloody, you're bloody, you're bloody, you're bloody, and who else? Me. And that's kind of why in forensic science we look for that transfer of evidence. In bloodstain pattern analysis, I'm going to hit this like this, and I'm going to go to the crime scene, and I'm going to see all of this impact spatter all around it, and there won't be any right here, because the person who did it was standing there. And so that also helps me reconstruct what happened at the crime scene. Thank you. Oh, yeah, clickers. My students know I lose these all the time because I'm a grazer. All right, so let's do another one. And now you know a little bit what to look for. You know that, I see Dr. Baskey back there. We know, according to physics, that fluids are going to travel out in all directions. They travel out in all directions, all 360 degrees, unless there's something blocking them, and that all of the blood is going to be spherical shaped. We saw that already, even with mist things. So let's watch in this next clip. And I like this because who is getting beat up here is an alien. Yes. And the alien has bright yellow blood, which makes it oh so nice for us to see how it is traveling out in all directions. All right, so let me see if I can find my pointer fast. Dear God, I hate this area.
After being behind bars for a lot of years, well, he's understandably upset. His only course of action is a brutal beatdown on the man whose crimes he went to jail for.
Did you see Bruce Willis get anything other than on his hands in that whole thing? No. And even if it was a slightly more viscous than what blood really is, because, you know, it is an alien after all. So accurate in some regards, and we saw some of that impact spatter coming up. We also saw it being spattered all around, so that if I find somebody who their clothes are taken from them immediately after a scene has occurred by the police department, and if they are an active participant in that beating, whether they are doing it with their hands or some other object, the first thing I'm going to look at are the clothes. I'm going to look at the sleeves. I'm going to look at the bottoms of their pants, because that's the first thing that I look at to see how active they were in this particular assault. And so if someone is arrested for beating somebody to a pulp, but yet they don't have any blood on their clothes, I'm going to be highly suspect that that's somebody who is an active participant. And that's when I would say to the police officers involved, you need to go look for other people as well. All right? So you're getting pretty good at this. This might work for you for Halloween. But let me show you what it really looks like. That's what it really looks like. This is, does that look okay? Yeah. That's what happens when you hit somebody over the head with a hammer. More than once, or just a few times? More than once? Once? More? A lot? Yeah, a lot. Hello. Was the person moving, or were they in this area? Oh my God. We've been doing this now for what, a half hour? And already you're bloodstain pattern analyst. You get it. Yay. All right. What happened here? We haven't talked about that, but what do you think happened here? The person who's beating this person up got so covered in blood and so tired from hitting them over the head with a claw hammer, they fell against the wall. Because there's a fabric impression in that blood stain. It doesn't match the clothes that the victim had on. Had to come from the suspect. Oh, I'm always especially happy when the suspects try and clean up the blood. This is what happens when you also beat somebody at the bottom of a stairwell. And here's your test. We're going to look now at stabbings. No, the test is coming up. Now let's take a look at stabbings as well. I have to tell you, this was probably the grossest thing, to look for clips to show you that were stabbings, because I don't know about movie makers, but they really get into stabbings. It takes a lot of effort to stab somebody and a lot of anger to do it repeatedly. And so horror pictures, don't get me started on them. They really like this. But let me show you this one. And there is something a little bit wrong with it. It's very quick towards the end, so you'll have to pay attention. And even though this is stabbing and not a beating, you're still doing the same sort of motion. Stabbing and beating, here's the knife, you're stabbing. You're still going to get that spray, that spattering of the blood, and it's going to go out in all directions if this is something that's up close and personal, and stabbings and beatings are indeed up close and personal. You need to look for that transfer of the blood. Oh, wait a minute. All right. Sorry, I'm a neophyte with these stupid movie clips. All right, let's do this. There we go. 1, 2. Now, we really don't want to know why she's liking this so much. Little bleed out, not bad. But it doesn't have, she doesn't have any on her hands. She doesn't have any on that lovely white shirt that is a magnet for impact spatter. So, whoever did that one needs a little work as well. This is what real stabbings look like. They produce serious wounds that can oftentimes bleed out. This man was stabbed, as you can see on this carpet, numerous times. Left there, was he moving or was he left there for a period of time? Both. He bled and then he was moved to another area where they stabbed him. Up in the right corner, that's the same house, same case. You tell me, was he on the couch for a period of time? Absolutely. And this is this exact same case. This is this gentleman who had lots of blood because of the head wounds, but also he was stabbed in the back numerous times. And the nature of these wounds also can give us a clue about how much bleed out to also see. Now, one of the things that's important about bloodstain pattern analysis is I am not a forensic pathologist. I don't know about wounds, severity of wounds, and one of the first things that I must always do is find out, is this a kind of wound that would incapacitate someone? Or is it something that they would be survivable but able to move around as well? And then eventually they're still found if it's a death investigation, of course. And in these wounds, this gentleman was beat around his entire house until they was finally put in the bedroom where he was. Then they finally decided enough of the stabbing and beating, let's just take a gun and shoot him in the head. So, yeah, lovely. All right. Here's the classic stabbing movie. I love this movie. But now you know a little bit about bloodstain pattern analysis, so don't be fooled by the music. Don't be fooled by the gripping hands or the placement of the body. What you need to look for are the bloodstain patterns. She doesn't have any soap. Not seeing a lot of soap either. Should there be blood on that wall? Now, most of the wounds are to her chest. Her chest is on the outside of the bathtub. Oh, it's black and white. So last type, you budding bloodstain pattern analysts, are arterial spurts. And just as the name would indicate, this is when an artery has been severed. Remember, you've got this lovely little pump inside your chest called your heart. Closer the wounds are to the heart, the more pumping power it has. The further away, like in arms or legs or whatever, then there's less pumping. But you do actually get a larger volume of blood that comes out as opposed to a couple drops at a time like Janet Lee's experience. So arterial spurts are favorites, as I say, of Hollywood because they like that pumping action. So let's see, once again, what they do. Wait, here it is. Now, I can tell you that if somebody's heart has been severed the way that one was, and you've got all of those spurts coming out, that person is going to be able to stand maybe for one additional spurt. They're going to go down immediately. I realize that this is Hollywood and they take some license, but of course that's not what we're going to see in reality. Let's take a look at another one, but I want to test you a little bit on this one. This is a way younger Kevin Bacon. And that new show that he's in. Let me tell you how bloody that show is. Oh my goodness, is that a bloody show? Pretty real though, I have to say. So at the end, there's going to be a quiz. Darn it, why does it do that? Because finger, here we go, let's try it again. Sorry, I told you my millennials need to help me here. Okay. What should we see next? Oh, blood. Who said blood? What are we going to see? What are we going to see? Besides blood, we're going to see immediate blood flow. It's going to come out immediately. What do you have going on in here? There are like some really important arteries in here. They're like this far away from your heart, okay? They're super, super close. So if this was really an arrow that was piercing through a carotid artery, that arrow, as soon as it pops through, we're going to have immediate blood flow, and we're going to start seeing that sort of situation. And that sort of situation really produces something that looks like that. This is a carotid artery that has been severed. This woman is laying on the ground and producing enough blood spattering out of her neck to do that. That's what she looked like. That's on the ground. That's a carotid artery that's this far away from the heart. It's got go power. That's what happens when you shoot somebody in the heart and the heart's got a big old hole in it. It comes straight out. Now, where was the guy's body? Right down below it. He was found right here. You know, you don't function too well with a hole in your heart that goes to the outside. So, ready for one more Hollywood interpretation of arterial spurts? Of course.
Now stand aside, worthy adversary.
See it coming out? Ground's getting covered. Thankfully, in better taste, we stopped in the Dark Knight. But not a bad attempt, okay? We all know it was for comic relief, as Monty Python is all about that sort of thing. But come on, knowing what we know now about arterial spurts, not so crazy, not so funny. All right, now I'm going to pass it on to our makeup expert, who I put bits and pieces there. Maybe it'll be a little more.
Okay.
You want the clicker? You
Oh,
can
I don't-
hit that button and it goes to the next one.
Oh, it does. Oh, ooh, how exciting. I don't have this. This is some examples of my students' work.
Now pay attention to the bloodstain patterns.
Yeah, because it's not perfect, obviously, because this is their first year projects and things like that. And sometimes they don't use their research. They have to bring research, and sometimes they just get carried away. I'm going to put bruises and gore and blood. Most of this stuff was made with scar wax, which is also known as mortician's wax, because they do use it in the industry. And it just lets them open things up. Actually, the one on the hairy one is not too bad as far as blending the wax and stuff like that. Most times wax is very difficult to blend, as you'll see. This, I think, I don't know. I think if I remember right, it was supposed to be a barbed wire wrapped around the arm really tight. It's pretty gross. It's fun.
I have a question about the bloodstain pattern for our group.
Please.
Is that right? If the hand's like this?
No.
Hand has to be down like this,
Yeah.
correct?
It could have been the way I took the picture too.
Is this,
Oh, it is, 'cause look,
is
he's
this
not-
wound, is this a wound
'Cause
that happened recently or after it's been cleaned up? Is this documented or photographed immediately after it happens, or was this after a person went and cleaned it up?
Oh, absolutely.
Because if that were real,
It'd be-
immediately, you wouldn't even see those wounds.
Right.
It would just be one big raw meat sort of situation.
Yeah. And we only have so much blood.
Sorry.
That's all right. This one, he did a really pretty good job of blending the wax, especially up there on his forehead. And it was a nice, really pretty good cut. And he had a good time. The dripping, though, is interesting how it went. I don't know how he managed that. Apparently he laid on his side. I don't know. Sometimes they don't really think about that. You lecture them on it, and it goes in one ear and out the other, which is okay. It's practice. It's fun. This is supposed to be some burns. I can't remember what the young lady on the right is supposed to be, but this one on the left is supposed to be some sort of a burn. Not bad, but the top is a disease of some sort. They also have to do diseases, and they have to do research on that. And so this is I can't remember, again, the specific disease, but the one on the top is not bad when you consider that it's just pieces of wax that they've colored and made light, and looks sort of pustulent type. Looks like a giant bunch of zits, but it's a disease. This is hysterical. Because as we all know, pens will go through necks. And there's no blood. It's like, this is really nice, but
That's a zombie.
You forgot the blood. There's going to be especially where you got you in the neck. Mm-hmm. And then for some reason they decided that everyone was going to lay on the floor for these shots. It was very funny, actually. But the biggest problem with that is, first off, you got to get it into the neck, and then you have to smooth that out. And then you have to have blood. He didn't have blood. So Johnny didn't do well. This one up here, I think the top one is, the wax is blended beautifully. The red around it still has a lot of fingerprints. And I think there should be more blood, personally. But then again, you can't see the cut. Like you said, you can't see the cut you can't see the good stuff.
And that's somebody who's moved, too.
Yes, because it's all over. Yeah. And again, that is, when they put the blood on, we have artificial blood, of course, and they're walking around the classroom going like this and having a wonderful time. And the blood goes all over the place. So,
But that's important for using the bloodstain patterns to try and figure out what happened. And that's the reconstruction part, is I would look at that and say, well, this is somebody who was standing up for a period of time and then laying down. And when you have other evidence to support that, you can come up with very, very precise movements at the crime scene, because I'm going to find other evidence at that scene that can be typed and subjected to analysis. There's usually other evidence as well. And the fingerprints on the body to me are kind of exciting, because I can figure out who touched the person.
Well,
So, I know that's putting on makeup, but
Yeah.
if that were a real case and I saw friction ridge
That'd
detail
be
like
great.
that, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good thing. The one below is supposed to be a recreation of Ruis dermatitis, I don't know, and then her research is below that. It's a little flaky. Shouldn't be quite that three-dimensional, but I get.
Yeah.
This was, I cannot remember what the disease was with the toes, and how she managed to get a fake toe in there and look like she only has 4 toes.
Yeah.
I have no idea. She really used like her whole container of scar wax, and it's kind of really cool. and I can't remember the disease. The other one obviously has a disease too, of some bizarre sort. But they are makeup diseases. There's that, and then I'll play with this.
All right, so because Halloween's like a week away, we thought we might let you guys make some blood. And also, she's going to show how she did some of those things over there. So in the world of Dr. Oz, I need a volunteer. Who wants to come up here? No. No. No, come on, don't make me pick somebody. All right, Emily. Emily's a former student. All right, so this is like just like Dr. Oz. Put on your lab coat. And the gloves.
This is a fancy lab coat. This is a lot nicer than mine is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. It's taking a long time.
All right, so what we're going to have Emily do is we're going to have Emily create some of the stains that we saw in our videos. Now we've got this little wall over here. So if you're back there and you can't see the wall, you might have to get up and move over. So,
Sorry.
anytime.
I mean, they're small. You gave me small ones.
Yeah. So in order to recreate gunshot wounds, you have to give enough force to mimic that huge muzzle velocity that's coming out as the projectile exits the wound. So the best thing to do that, believe it or not, is a rubber band. And so what Emily's going to do is she's going to stand here with all of her protective gear on. She's going to hold this rubber band like this. And then I'm going to add to it some blood. And then all she's going to have to do is simply take the rubber band and go like that. And let's see what happens. All right, so we use pig blood, carries no bloodborne pathogens, which is a really good thing, so we don't have to worry about any of that stuff. And there's an FYI for, all right, so let's hold it like this.
No, we use, let's
But
see,
you're gonna then take your hand.
corn
Hold.
syrup, dishwasher liquid, food coloring. The dishwashing liquid gets the blood out of clothing. And the corn syrup helps it to prevent staining also because of sugar.
Well, you missed.
I got it on my
Oh,
glove. I got it on my glove.
So she missed the wall. But check out the small spattering on her hands. And that's exactly what it will look like. She clearly needs some more training before she leaves today. All right, so that would be high force impact spatter. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do some regular impact spatter, and I happen to know that Emily's going to really like doing this. So what she's going to do, she's going to stand right here with her hand like this. I'm going to put some blood in her hand, and then you're just simply going to impact it like that. Let me tell you, this works really good in front of a jury. They love this stuff. All right, you ready?
I'm so ready. I hope I don't disappoint you this time.
You can put it right here. Extend your arm a little bit. Oh, you're dripping. Let's make sure she doesn't miss this time.
I just hit my hand.
Yep, sit your. And that's exactly what would happen if I were using the baseball bat or repetitively stabbing someone. You're going to get exact kind of pattern as we see there. Now, clean yourself up. Now I got to figure out how to mimic a heart pumping. Well, it turns out syringes are very, very good. Mara was telling me that they use turkey basters, but that's like a lot of blood.
Okay. When I was using the turkey baster, it was for a battle, and they had swords and things like that, and I was trying to deliver as much blood as possible at one time. And when your director's yelling, more blood, more blood. So, I mean, yeah, it was.
Because he went to medical school, right?
Yeah. He's an actor, you know. So yeah, that was one of the reasons, and we were taking it with our hands, and we were doing everything to get more blood.
This is 2 milliliters, 2 cc's for those of us that are old. And all that Emily is going to do is dispense all this blood all at once. Now I'm going to have her do it one time standing still, and then the second time she does it, I'm going to have her push the plunger and move the syringe at the same time. So this first time, come stand right here. All I want you to do is to shoot it straight onto that. So you got to face that wall.
Marilyn
Go ahead.
likes that.
Okay, do it.
Woo!
So if you find that
I wasn't ready.
you find that kind of pattern, and what's really distinctive about real arterial gushes is indeed that flow pattern. You remember some of the ones in the examples we saw? Now, the next thing you're going to do is we're going to do the same amount of blood, only this time when you hit the plunger, I want you to move it at the same time as you're hitting it.
that.
All right? And just stand here and go. You can use your finger and just go like that. It's like flick your wrist.
What if I put it that way? I
Well,
don't want to get it.
okay, go then that way.
Okay. I don't want to.
Whatever, just do it.
Did you pass my class?
I did.
But as lame as that was,
I'm sorry.
you do see a little bit of movement, how it's spread out, whereas here it's all in one area. So when you go to the crime scene, you can make some determinations based on that. So when you go home this weekend and you're making up your haunted house for next weekend,
Think
some
about it.
blood. Okay.
My turn? Okay.
Oh, hand. Let's have a hand for Emily.
Oh, yes. Okay, some of the things that we do try to make up is we do a lot of prosthetic work, and every student has to do prosthetic work in my class because
Just a little bit on you.
it's just something that you need to learn as an actor and as a technician or designer. So in this particular instance, the research was an actual impact injury. That is, the research it had been cleaned up. She's been to the hospital. They just took the pictures. It stopped bleeding. This was not made for her face, so it doesn't fit her face well. And one of the things that all of my students do that we will cast their face, make a mold of it, and then we will do the prosthetic on their actual face so it fits their face because it's going on them. So, but this is something that one of my students made, and I really liked it, so I kept it. This, and I can pass this around, this is the mold that she made, and this is a sample of it. You can look at it, and it's gross, but it's kind of fun. So if you want to look at that, you can look at that. I just finished, as you all know, or maybe don't know, you should, we just finished Macbeth over at the theater department. And for that Macbeth, and depending on which night you got there was a severed head. And so one of the things that I made for Macbeth was a severed head. And I'll show you how we made, yes, you can bring him out. Okay. This is Macbeth. He's still wet. He's not wet. Okay. No, it's just sticky junk. So what happened is the whole purpose of this was he wanted him bald, so it was made life easier. But we cast it with dental alginate first, then we put plaster of Paris around that, and then we popped the mold and all that good stuff. For the night that we did this, we drilled holes through the tubing, just surgical tubing, drill holes through it. You inject it with a syringe of blood. There's a blood pack in there. It's just wrapped up. It's just saran wrap. Okay, you tie it up, stick the blood pack there. This thing sits behind stage, upside down like this. The actor comes in. He sticks his sword through the blood pack into the head and comes out like this, and all the blood starts dripping down. It's really quite wonderful and dramatic. And it's all about drama. You know, it's not, sometimes hopefully it's about accuracy, but sometimes it's not. It's there for, the gore. But it was very, very effective. And the audiences loved it, and even the technicians loved it, which is always a good thing. And it was kind of fun because when he pulled the head off, the plastic wrap sort of stuck to the end of the sword. So it looked like a little bit of gore still, like we pulled a little bit of brain out or something. It was really disgusting. It was wonderful. There's nothing wrong with me. Okay. This was for another show that we did when I was in graduate school. This was for the Baki, and the head had to come off, and it had to look like it was beaten up. And then they do toss it around stage. So and it came out on a pike, so that had to be done also. And this was a little. It's completely inaccurate, I'm sure, but it was. I didn't really check out
bad. It's not bad.
Got a spinal cord there. We're good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
And I was just randomly playing with it and having a good time. We had a mistake in the cast, so we worked with it. You have to sometimes work with what you have. And then we decorated him like he was, like his makeup was, so it looked like the same actor. And this was kicked around. It was great fun. What I do in a lot of instances, this was applied with Prozaid, which is a medical adhesive, and it sticks on really well, except in this case it's not, because I didn't have her clean her face. That's my fault. And again, it doesn't fit her. It should be a little bit farther forward because the teeth are so big and all that other good stuff. Over on this side, we've got this stuff called non-flexible collodion. And if you were up close, you could see that what it does is it takes the skin. Here, you can hold your little stuff. It takes the skin, you spread it on the skin, but you spread it on stretched skin. And when it dries, it goes back and it puckers. And the thicker it is, the more it puckers and the deeper it will make the scar look. And if it's, depending on the color that you put on it, it's either a new scar, it's somewhat healed, or it is an old scar. And old scars are generally, whitish and whatever color. So this is supposed to be a little bit of burn. Really simple to do for anybody that wants to do this on their own. Take tissue paper or toilet paper, a thin layer, for one single layer, and you're going to put latex on top of it, let it dry, apply some baby powder, flour, sugar, something, and on top of it, and then you're going to just peel it off, whatever you applied it to. Don't put it on clothes. It will stick and never ever come off. Learned that the very hard way. Ruined a beautiful jacket. But it comes off, and then you can just apply this with more latex and paint it however you want it. It's tissue paper, but it's very strong. You can do anything. You can peel it for a zombie. You can do all kinds of wonderful things and attach it. No. But it's very simple. Claire is going to come around here, another assistant. I don't know if you can all see me. No, I cleaned it up. There. Oh, she doesn't trust me. She was my student in Kentucky. So what I've done here on this nice chair that everyone's going to freak out that I've ruined the furniture at the new furniture at the depot. I have not. It's okay. This makes wonderful lace-like scars and skin and burn marks. It's great. And all it happens, because latex sticks to itself, so you have to be very careful. So what happens is if you just take this and very slowly lift this up, you start to get these really, want to grab the other end, sweetie? You can get some really good creepy effects. Don't let it snap because it'll pop onto itself. No, see. All right, that's okay because we'll put it right here on your arm.
Oh, good.
So we're just going to lay this onto, oh no, you see it sticks to itself. So what happens is you're just going to lay this on, if it didn't stick to itself.
Not the scissors.
Nope. And I would attach that with more latex and then start adding color. Latex, where'd it go? Right there. Sit down, sweetheart. And all that has to be done is just add some more latex to this. It will stick because latex sticks to itself. You let it dry, and it becomes this very strange, creepy disease. Latex comes in many different varieties, colors, etc. A lot of people are concerned with latex allergies, and I do have once in a while. It's one of the things I ask my students first. Do you have a latex allergy? Because then I have to do a whole new thing for people. We have to use silicone. But it's not as much fun as latex, okay? But it does it'll go down a little bit late, and once it's dry, it makes this really cool thing. What we did here, sort of a zombie burn, okay? This is latex, and then it's a tissue paper, it's latex, pulled up the tissue paper a little bit so it gets this wonderful little open wound looking thing. And then in bubbly, if you can see it from the side, can you see the side, the three-dimensional? Gives that nice bubbly look to it. Especially if you move it. Yeah, it's really creepy. It's really great if you move it. And it's just a bruise wheel, just bruising. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to do bruise. It's really easy. And then it has glycerin on top so that it makes it shiny, and it will stay shiny until you take it off. The nice thing about latex is it just pulls off. It just comes right off your skin. As I said, it does not come off clothing because it gets into the fibers and loves fibers and stays there forever and ever. Ever and ever. Claire has a lovely, I used a little scar wax on here. I've cut Claire's wrist here, and now I'm going to paint it. I just dropped something. Whenever we paint anything, we always go through with the darkest color first because you need to give it a three-dimensional focus. Then you can come back with your lighter colors of blood or whatever. Now's when I need the pig blood.
You want it?
Yeah, could I have a little?
Sure.
Oh, goody.
We'll be happy to give this to you anytime you need it.
And so, and scary, poor Claire has her skin actually matches the.
Poor Claire.
Her skin matches the wax.
It goes the wrong way.
I know.
Most knife wounds are this way.
Well, she just cut herself, like, and I don't know.
Attention seeking.
She was
Oh.
attention.
Oh, okay.
Trust me on this one, okay? Just trust me on this one.
Thank you.
Okay, and so you take this and you're going to open it up a little bit,
Thank you.
and you just sort of pour it in. It's really lovely, actually. Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.
And then again, she's just, as I said, she's attention seeking. She can drag it down, and you can watch. It's a lovely little rolling thing, and she's got this wonderful little cut going on. Now, in theater, sometimes with pig's blood, it keeps on moving like real blood, and we want it to stop. So that's one of the reasons we use our own little recipes of blood, because we want it to stop. Okay. You also get blood that's very thick, and it almost looks like, like scabs, okay? And so that's a kind of a cool thing also that happens with all this stuff. Bruise. Let's do a real quick bruise on Claire.
She's running out of surfaces.
She's used to it. So when I use bruises, this is called a master bruise wheel. There are 6 colors in here. And we always start with yellow at the bottom because it just gives a really good base color. Okay? And you never want to make it solid. You never ever, when you put a bruise on, you never rub it. It's always padded because the colors come up with bruises. There's lots of, bruising is, and correct me if I'm wrong, your blood vessels are broken and there's no place for the blood to go. So it just kind of coagulates in this area and does all these things. And as we all know, the older they get, the more colorful they get. I had a black eye once, and as it aged, I kind of wore sweaters to match the color. My students thought it was great.
So we're going to let Mara keep working on her
Yeah.
bruise. We're getting, as in most things, Hollywood, we're getting our high sign because we don't want to keep you too long from your lunch. So somehow I feel like I should put this on. So make sure that your makeup is correct and what you see in the TV or on the movie screen is also correct with bloodstain patterns. And thank you so much for introducing this great facility to us.
Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you, Maura. And wanted to invite you all back. Our next Unexpected Connection event takes place April 17th. And it's a real treat, too. It's between art and biomedical engineering, and they're going to do some 3D printing and pain management. So please come back. We'll have some publicity for that to let you know about it.